Can the Caitlin Clark show continue? Let's find out here in March Madness. The women's bracket has been shown, and Iowa is a 2 seed. I'm actually quite shocked that we got them as a 2 seed. I thought they were going to sneak into a 1, but they're going to be in Stanford's region as the 2 seed. They're going to take on Southeast Louisiana, the 15 seed, to start it off. And the big question remains, can Iowa find themselves out of this region? Can they find themselves in the Final Four? As you predicted at the beginning of the season, Steve, and can Caitlin Clark continue to shine? And is Caitlin Clark enough for this Iowa team to make a deep run? Steve, I got to ask you a lot of questions there, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, Iowa is much hype, and certainly nobody has hyped Caitlin Clark more than I have all season. I mean, she just is the most exciting player in college basketball, men's and women's side. She's the most exciting, watchable player in college basketball today. She is doing things that very few players have ever done. You know, reaching levels that only the true elite players have reached. She's only a junior. But they're so much more than just Caitlin Clark. Monica Cisnano, she's a force inside. I mean, I don't know that, well, excluding South Carolina, I don't know that there's a better tandem in college basketball than Clark and Cisnano. I just don't think they are. They know where each other are in the court at all times. They always seem to make a connection. So I think when you have that and you've got a team that can score from downtown at the proficiency and effectiveness that the Hawkeyes can, for me, Iowa should have been a 1 seed. I mean, flat out should have been a 1 seed. I think they're better than Stanford. I know Stanford has the track record, but I mean, UConn has a track record. They were a 2 seed. I mean, there's no shame in being a 2 seed, but I think Iowa, what they did in the Big Ten tournament, I think that earned them the right. I can understand from a committee standpoint, you don't want two teams from the same conference, maybe as 1 seeds or whatever their excuses were. But for me, I think Iowa is so much more than Caitlin Clark. But if you get to watch Caitlin Clark, I mean, she's one part Larry Bird, she's another part Sue Bird, and then I think even more than that, she's got that Pete Maravich in her, where she can do things with the basketball that few players on the women's side can. I mean, she seems to already know two possessions away what she's going to do and try to set up. And she's an unselfish player. You know, I mean, you don't get triple doubles if you're not willing, to pass the ball. So I think it's going to last to the Final Four. I'm standing by that. Basically, I'm taking both Iowa squads, both the men's and the women's, to the Final Four. I feel a lot more confident about the Lady Hawkeyes than I do on the men's side. But again, I was chirping early, so I had to stand up. I didn't have the courage to take Creighton, so I went with Iowa on the men's side. But this Iowa team is really, really special. I think they're in a tough region. I think they're going to get lucky to a degree because I think Stanford's going to go out early. I really like Duke, but I don't think Duke can beat Iowa. I think Iowa can beat Duke pretty much 9 times out of 10. This Iowa team's going to beat Duke. So I think Iowa's going to survive that and make the Final Four.
All the hot takes here talking about this region. Stanford maybe possibly going out early. That's what you think. I think that's an interesting take. I think we're going to see I think you're with you. I don't think we're going to see Stanford versus Iowa in this region, but I do have Iowa going all the way to the Final Four. I have them against Louisville. I think Louisville is one of my dark horses in this ride. What I saw in the tournament, and I think they just are fired up and ready to go. I think they're going to have to face a couple teams that are going to be underdog teams. Maybe a Middle Tennessee State might surprise a team like Duke. Who knows? Maybe a Georgia might beat Florida State, and they have to pick on a Georgia in the second weekend. Regardless, I do like what Iowa brings to the table for tournament play. I think they are a really solid tournament team. We saw the hype they had when College Game Day came to town and how excited they were. And you could just tell how tuned in and ready to go they were. And I just don't see that changing in a tournament setting. So I do think Iowa is going to succeed and do exactly what you said at the beginning of the season, Steve. I think they make it to the Final Four and make it through the Seattle 4 region. I do think that we're going to see Caitlin Clark on the biggest stage in women's college basketball this year in the Final Four in Dallas for 2023. And I'm excited to see it happen.
Yeah, you don't get players like Caitlin Clark very often. And again, we've said this all year long. There has never been the amount of parity and depth in the women's field ever. It has been over the last 10 years, it's been a steady increase as far as the number of teams that have legitimate chances to make a Sweet 16 or an Elite Eight. But I mean, this year you can go through any of the brackets and you can easily pick 3 or 4 teams that could win the bracket. And when you talk about upsets, I don't know, outside of a South Carolina, losing, or even an Iowa getting upset, or a Stanford getting upset, even though I did pick that. I don't know that it's really an upset, because that's how much depth there is on the women's side of the game. And I think it's terrific, because women, at this point, I think the women's game is more fun and enjoyable to watch if you're an old school, enjoy fundamentals, old goat like me. I mean, I want to see best. I mean, athleticism is terrific, and certainly there are a lot of really athletic women players, but the fundamental end of the game is what wins games on the women's side. So for me, I'm much more excited about watching this particular NCAA women's tournament than I even on the men's side. And that's not a knock against the teams that are there. I just think we're witnessing something special with players like Boston and Clark. I mean, you can just go on and on and on and on. Cameron Brink, you can just run down this whole list of players that are just really special. Mackenzie Holmes. Every game is going to be exciting. You're going to see one player on every team where you can say, wow, I'm really glad I watched this game. I didn't realize how good this young lady was. So bring it on. Iowa's going to the Final Four before they get derailed by South Carolina. But I don't know about you, but this is going to be a fun region, and Iowa has that extra special weapon that nobody else really has. As talented as a lot of the players out there are, nobody has a Caitlin Clark, and that in itself is going to win Iowa a bunch of games in this tournament.
100% agree. Yeah. Not only am I excited for this region, I'm excited for this tournament. It starts with the first 4 starting on Wednesday evening. What do you think about this Iowa squad? Do you have as much faith in Caitlin Clark than Steve does? I completely doubt it. However, do you have enough faith to think that they make it to the Final Four? I don't know if anybody is hyped enough now to watch Caitlin Clark and these Iowa Hawkeyes more than Steve is, because she's just worth watching every second. Yep. Let's be honest. But I want to know, how far do you think Iowa goes? Can they get out of this region? I know they're not the number 1 seed. They're not the favorite, but can they beat Stanford? Can they beat the other teams in this region to find out? Duke had a great run in the ACC this year. Can Iowa find a way to sneak out and do that? I want to know. Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. March Madness is here, everyone. We are going to have you covered every step of the way, men's and women's side, until we see a team like possibly Iowa make the Final Four, or maybe even the national championship, Steve. Maybe. Could happen. You never know. But until then, thank you for watching SlasherU.